Hi everybody, I'm Nick. Good afternoon to you all. I'm aware that I'm the guy before lunch, so I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. For the next few minutes, I'm going to be talking about ship inspections, but more specifically, how we kind of leverage data from ship inspections to help our clients make better decisions. I'm hoping a little bit of what I'm about to say resonates with the last couple of panels and discussions that we're here. So just to introduce who we are, we're Idwal, and we are a leading inspection company. We're a software and technology-enabled company, and we look to use and leverage data that we collect from inspections to better inform our clients. We inspect around about 10 ships every day. We're heavily focused on a standardization of methodology for inspection. So every ship we inspect, we do to exactly the same standard. We pull exactly the same data out, and we have a kind of basis for real firm comparison thereafter. And we're creating a benchmarking kind of database on that. We also follow, crucially, something we call a boots-on-deck strategy. So whilst we're a software-enabled business, we also really firmly believe that physical inspections are the #1 risk mitigation tool available to ship owners and ship financiers today. All of our inspections are delivered with the numerical grade, the Idwal Grade. And this is the basis and the baseline for the benchmarking of ships and fleets and portfolios thereafter. Over the last 3 or 4 years, we've inspected around about 10,000 ships, and we now have a real significant proprietary data set on a good cross-section of the world's fleet. And a data set that one day we hope we can share openly and transparently to solve a number of issues that we're discussing here today. So I'm just going to show you a few examples of this sort of grade in action and what it allows us to do. And at the highest level, really, it allows us to identify trends in condition in certain ship types and ship segments. All this data is completely anonymized, but each one of these blue dots represents a ship that we have graded, that we physically inspected, and that we've graded. And what you can see along the horizontal axis is the ship's age, and the vertical axis there you can see our grade. The dashed line in the middle is basically showing the average condition rating for those segments of shipping that you see there: dry cargo, tanker, container, and general cargo. No surprise that condition is degrading over time. I mean, it's not the most landmark statement we've ever made, but the point here is that we have a clear and justifiable benchmark for what that kind of point is and where that degradation comes thereafter. And we think that's really relevant, particularly when we were talking on one of the panels earlier about aging fleets, about less supply coming into market, and the need to focus on some of the older fleets to make sure that they are still compliant. It's probably a little bit easier to see it here. This is the tanker, just blown up the tanker kind of sector. And as you can see here, you have the same diminishing condition grade, but what you now can see is the proportion of ships that are falling beneath that grade is actually getting bigger. And actually there is an increase in the outliers, so the ships that are potentially significantly worse than that benchmark, which is potentially a worrying and concerning trend. It's possible really for us to slice and dice the data quite a lot, and actually we could take this data into management company, age, flag, class, yard, build, whatever, really. We can really kind of analyze it any way we like. Here we just looked at MR tankers built in Korea between 10 and 15 years, and what you're really seeing here is a clustering of the grades, but again, you can see that kind of half of those ships are starting to fall beneath the benchmark that we believe to be the benchmark based on our data. So it probably helps to kind of bring this to life a little bit. So we've just done a little snapshot tale of 2 vessels here, and we're comparing 2 ships that we've recently inspected. So Ship A and Ship B, they're both MR tankers, both built in Korea, 14 years old, sister ships, built and delivered within a couple of months of each other. And inspected very, very, very close together by us, and both operated by what we would consider to be recognized industry players. The time of the inspection, market values were around about the same, around about 16 million for Ship A and just under 16 million for Ship B. Grades, however, on inspection, vastly different. So something's wrong. There's a delta here between these 2 ships. Ship A was 79, which is relatively high, as we'll go on to show you, and Ship B was 65. So what we've done is then we've looked at the sister ship profile. So we've got all of, these are the ships that we've inspected in the series of the sister ship series for these ships. And what we can see then is that ship A is performing nicely above the average for that series, for that sister group. Ship B, not so much. And falling down quite significantly beneath that average for that sister ship group. And here again, we look at ship A and B, but we look at it against the MR segment as a whole. So this is all of the MRs that we've inspected of around about the same age and type. And again, what you're seeing is ship A neatly above the average, and you're seeing ship B really kind of falling down quite significantly. So that leads us to sort of think, well, what's going on? Why is ship A so much better than ship B? And what we have then is the deviations and the standard deviations that we take from each of the subcomponents that we inspect against. So you can see ship A here. She's got nice average, kind of above average deviations on the light blue chart in almost every area, not every, but almost every. Ship B, however, is deviating negatively from that standard deviation. And that standard deviation is not a comparison between the two ships. That's a comparison point of the MR segment that we're looking at. And you can see ship B some problems there potentially. And we've just honed in on one of the key deviations, one of the biggest deltas that we saw for this particular case, and that was in the area of engine room machinery. So you can see quite a big swing, quite a big delta of difference between these two ships, and something potentially concerning. Just to kind of bring that a little bit to life, just beyond data, in line with our boots on deck strategy, everything we do here is bottom up, right? So we're inspecting the ships physically. We're sending people to the ships, and they're taking physical evidence based on what they're seeing. Ship A's engine room, nice and spick and span, sort of. Ship B's engine room, not so much. Dirty, oil leaks, really bad maintenance records. And this is a key area, right? This is an area where PSC vetting inspectors, they're going to come on your ship and they're going to give deficiencies and defects, and these are tradability, direct tradability problems that these types of things present. And it's an aspect that is highly likely to get picked up on and cause deficiencies. So the next thing we did then was look at the deficiencies of ship B and how to look at the port state control records to see, well, what's going on with the port state control? And is there a correlation between our data and the port state control data? And there is. What we can see here is the engine room and machinery grouping of the port state control data is neatly correlated to the low Idwal grade that we give in that subcomponent. So we can see a direct correlation here between what we see on the ship and then what's happening in the kind of international vetting and port state control regimes. And that's a problem, but it's also an opportunity, right? It gives owners the opportunity now to perform risk-based inspections in advance of these vetting and port state control inspections in order to mitigate the chances of any kind of tradability risks that you see. As an aside, I think ship B had something like 26 port state control deficiencies across 11 inspections. So that's a ratio of about 2.36, which is way above any KPI target that you would see from any credible ship manager in the market. And I guess what we're trying to demonstrate here is that by really taking that proactive inspection approach, you can really sort of find out what those key areas are, address them, and then prevent that kind of that problem with vetting or trading or PSC. So guys, just to conclude, really using the data, using a standard methodology and inspecting your ships can be a real proactive tool and help prevent trading risks. It also helps present a number of other things like value depreciation, increases in OPEX and CAPEX. It reduces employability risk, and also other issues with statutory class and some of the softer things like crew welfare and retention and so on. And the final takeaway from us really is, it is a shameless plug, but it really is about inspecting the ships. It is the #1 risk tool that we see. If we do it consistently, we do it accurately, and we leverage and harness that data, we think you can really sort of protect that downside risk. That's me. Thank you very much, everyone.